Hey dudes, welcome to Splat from the Past, the only 80s themed horror and sci-fi show where things can get totally radical. Now today, I will be welcoming one of the most beautiful women in the history of television with the prettiest blue eyes ever, Ellen Bry. A lot of you nerds out there know her as Julie Masters from the Amazing Spider-Man series from the late 70s, but she's also been in so much other television series. She had a long-running recurring role on St. Elsewhere back in the 80s. She's been a guest star on so many different shows like Chips, The Misadventures of Sheriff Lobo. She did that Disney sci-fi superhero TV movie, I-Man. And then she's been in so much stuff. She was in that great romantic comedy in the 90s, Bye Bye Love. I mean, she's got so much work, and I'm having her on the show today, and I can't wait. So, here is my interview with Ellen Bry.
Hello?
Hey, Ellen. How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
I am spectacular. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Yes, it's such an honor. Thank you for taking the time finally today.
My pleasure.
Nice. So, going back in time, did you fall in love with acting early on?
Very early on. So early on, I don't have any recollection of ever wanting to do anything but. In fact, well, you want me to start off and jump into a little story?
Oh, go right ahead.
In fact, I used to say, and it was just sort of a knee-jerk thing that I would say when people would say, how long were you interested in being an actress? And my automatic response without even thinking about it was, well, I've always wanted to be an actress. I mean, ever since I was 4, is what I would say. Ever since I, have memory, ever since I was 4. And years ago, when I was living in New York and seeing a psychiatrist, as a lot of actors do over the years, at one point he stopped me when I went into this little riff this monologue, and he said, "What happened when you were 4?" Because I said that, several times over the couple of years I saw the man.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, I just sort of froze up and started thinking, and then I started literally shaking, and my eyes welled up with tears, and I looked at him and I said, "Oh my God, my brother was born when I was 4. And I have 2 siblings, 2 brothers, both younger than I am. Mm-hmm. And I thought, my God, my brother was born when I was 4. That must have made an impact. Then maybe I didn't want to share the spotlight, because up until my 4th birthday, I was, an only child, and the first grandchild for my mother's parents, my grandmother and grandfather, who I was very close to, and all of a sudden I had to share the spotlight. So yes, I've always wanted to be an actress ever since I was 4.
Wow.
Ever since so long ago that I had no reality check on what being an actor was. I just knew I wanted to do it. Up until then, I was always commandeering my cousins. I had a lot of first cousins, and putting on pageants and plays whenever we'd get together for Christmas or Thanksgiving or any family get-togethers. I always would convince my cousins, and then later on when my brothers were old enough, my brothers to, participate in, little plays or pageants to put on for our aunts and uncles and parents. And I always cast myself very well. I was usually the queen.
That has to be one of the most interesting responses I've ever heard.
Oh, well, it's true. But anyway, it's true, although it it has nothing to do with the reality of being an actor, but it was always a dream, and I was very single-minded of purpose. I never really wavered from that desire, although I did think of other more practical ways to earn a living. And in fact, at one point I was thinking maybe I'd be like a female Ralph Nader, not the way he is today, but back when Consumer Union and Consumer Reports and, fighting the good fight with consumer activism. And in fact, for a while I worked at the New York City Department of Consumer Affairs, trying to fight disreputable businesses and merchants who were screwing people one way or the other out of money or not following, the law.
Yeah,
a lot of bait and switch cases, and anyway, so yeah, for a while there, I thought of maybe being a consumer activist. And my other thought was to go into nutrition. I was always interested in nutrition, and I took some graduate courses in nutrition, realized I had to basically get a medical degree and do a lot of biochemistry, and I decided against that.
Yeah.
Although my two brothers are doctors, so they were into the sciences. So.
You're originally from New York?
I am a native New Yorker. I was born in Manhattan at Lenox Hill Hospital, and the first couple of years of my life, my parents lived in Greenwich Village. And then by the time I was school age, we had moved up to Stamford, Connecticut, with a couple of years in between Manhattan and Connecticut in Westchester County in New Rochelle for several years. But by the time I was 6 years old, we moved to Stamford, Connecticut, and I went through public school in Stamford. Nice. And so basically I'm from Stamford, Connecticut, although I'm a native New Yorker. And I consider myself a New Yorker. I mean, I have kind of a New York energy and mentality.
So did you stay in New York to study acting?
I started school after I graduated from high school. I attended Tufts University up in near Boston for several years, studying English, majoring in English and theater arts, and then transferred to Columbia University in New York to finish school. I was at Columbia for was either a year or a year and a half. I think about a year and a half. So I finished at Columbia to be in New York, not necessarily for acting, although that was helpful to be in the city. I was really following my boyfriend at the time, who went to medical school in New York. But anyway, so yes, I started in Tufts, ended at Columbia, and I was in New York and studying theater. And took a fabulous film course when I was at Columbia with Andrew Sarris, who was a very famous critic for The Village Voice. Anyway, I was in New York, and I started studying professionally, and I was working at the New York City Department of Consumer Affairs and also taking acting classes, primarily with people from the neighborhood playhouse who were teaching. Wynn Hanman, who was running the program for Sanford Meisner.
Anybody else in there that went on to become successful?
Let me think. Oh, man, that is so many years ago. A lot of people who went on to having theater careers, and I'm reaching for names right now, and I can't pull one out of my head. Although I can remember a couple of people I studied with in Los Angeles, and some classmates I was studying with in Los Angeles that went on to do quite well. When I came out to L.A., I was studying with Jeff Corey.
Oh, yeah.
And David Paymer, I don't know if you know who that is. David Paymer was in the class with me.
Yep.
And a woman named Marcy, and her last name, I'm just having brain blips all over the place, aren't I? Oh, gosh. She had a couple of series. Nope, it's out of my head. And then, of course, when I was in L.A., I studied with someone named Milton Katselis, who many, many well-known actors studied with.
Oh, yes. I've talked to a lot of people who studied with him.
With Milton, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not a Scientologist, but I did study with Milton Katselis.
Oh, did he study Scientology?
Oh, he was a big Scientologist, yes.
Oh, I didn't know that.
He was, but it wasn't a prerequisite to study with him, and he was a really good teacher, a fabulous director, and very good.
Yeah, they all think very highly of him.
Yeah, he was excellent. And rigorous. Rigorous. You didn't show up at class unprepared.
Yeah. He's like he's like those guys, in New York and stuff, definitely. What year did you move to LA?
I came out to LA in 1978 for the series Spider-Man.
Mm-hmm.
And I was cast as the female lead opposite Nicholas Hammond in the live-action, short-lived television series Spider-Man, and that brought me to L.A. in the summer of 1978.
Mm-hmm. And back then, L.A., it was a very small community where everybody knew everybody, and it wasn't as nuts as it is now.
Yeah, and the traffic wasn't so bad. I mean, it was wonderful. I loved being in LA, and loved my apartment at the beach. It was like such a night and day difference from New York. I loved it. Well, of course, I also came out here as a working actor, which is a very nice way to show up in this town. So
yeah, you didn't have to go through the struggles like so many other people do.
No, I went through that struggle in New York beforehand. But there was a camaraderie in that, too. And New York was a much easier place, actually, to break in if you didn't have film footage on you. You know, people regularly would make, it's called making the rounds. You'd get the Ross reports or the Backstage or whichever publication would show where all the agents and managers' offices were, and you'd plot out your week in between your classes and whatever part-time jobs you had. You would always plot you meaning me, but my colleagues would all plot out their days, figuring out, okay, well, I'm going to be on the West Side in the 70s. Look, these people have offices here. I'll knock on their doors and bring them my photo and resume. And it was at a time in the 70s where you could do that. You could go into a building and go up unannounced and talk to the receptionist and try to talk your way in and have people look at you and take your resume. And a lot of people in New York at that time in the mid-70s, a lot of actors were freelance and were not signed with an agent. And so you were freelance and you would knock on doors. And it actually was a way to get seen and to get auditions. People, the agents in New York at the time anyway, were more than happy to represent freelance actors who were not signed with them. In fact, they normally wouldn't sign anyone unless you first proved yourself by getting jobs.
Yeah. I know it's totally different now, and everything.
Yeah, well, I don't know what it's like in New York. I hope it's still that people are willing to meet unknown actors. But out here, it's very hard to get representation if you don't have film on yourself, if you don't have a good resume. with solid acting credits. It's quite hard to get started here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So did you do uncredited stunt work on Superman?
I'm credited on my stunt work on Superman.
Okay.
I mean, I've
IMDb
never actually
said...
checked the credits line by line, but on Superman 1 and Superman 2, I'm quite sure I'm credited. I have framed in my office the front page of the New York Post with shots of me falling off a building. Mm-hmm. And is that true? I'm surprised if it says uncredited.
On IMDb it says uncredited, but then IMDb is always wrong.
Huh. Really? That's interesting. I'm amazed. I'll have to check that out because I never heard that it was uncredited. I can tell you one thing, I still get residuals year in, year out,
yeah.
which I'm very happy about. That I'm surprised. I didn't realize that it was uncredited.
Yeah. So how did that come about for you?
Well, actually, you've thrown me there. I guess I'm going to have to check that out. Not that I really. Wait a minute. I see what it says. I'm looking at IMDb right now, and it looks like, my goodness, it looks like everyone was uncredited. If you go, that's weird. If you go down, if you're on IMDb and you go down the line of Superman, yeah, and go to the stunts, which comes after, the actors and the visual effects, sound department, special effects. If you scroll down to a title called Stunts, mm-hmm, basically everyone is uncredited.
Yeah.
That's unbelievable. I didn't realize that. So, anyway, how did I get into it? I was working on Kovac. I had an acting role on Kovac, which normally shot in Los Angeles, but there was one season, I think it was the 6th or the 7th season, I'm not sure, the 6th or the 7th season of Kovac, and Telly Savalas is from New York and had been wanting for a long time to shoot the series in New York, and I guess because it was Telly Savalas and the series was successful, the network agreed, or the production company agreed, that they would shoot one season in New York, and somewhere like the 6th, 7th season. So they were in New York. I got cast in a role as the girlfriend of George Maharis, and it was very early in the season that they were shooting in the city. And the above-the-line, the directors, the producers, the stunt coordinator, the actors, the series regulars had all come from L.A. And the stunt coordinator approached me, and this was like the second episode, maybe, the second or third episode of that season, I believe. He approached me and said that he wondered if I would be comfortable doing my own stunts. I had a fight scene with George Maharis that was a pretty showy fight scene. And I was athletic and fit and had done a lot of tumbling in high school. Mm-hmm. And he said that, he would be coordinating it, that he'd give me a lot of practice. There'd be additional stunt pay, hazard pay, stunt pay if I would do my own stunts. And I thought it was a good challenge and not beyond my ability. And they had me all padded up. And then they were, when it came to doing the scene, you're very padded up. The set is a lot of the stuff that, they hit you with or throw you into is actually made of balsa wood with a lot of foam and padding. And it really was like a slow-motion choreographed dance. That's what it felt like in my head as I was practicing it and going through it on mats and things with the stunt coordinator. It just felt like a slow-moving choreographed dance, and as it turned out, once they got it all rigged and we filmed it, it looked very showy. It looked really good, and they were all happy with it. And the stunt coordinator came back to me and said, look, you did a great job. I'd love to train you, and I can offer you, to double other actresses for the rest of the season. You can't do any more acting jobs because you've already been a guest on the show, and my character died. But I'd love to offer you work doing stunt doubling for the rest of the season. And, I was a young actor who needed the money, and I thought, well, this is a great opportunity. And it was. I did a lot of stunt doubling on Kovac, and as a result of that, at the time anyway, it was a very small group of stunt people in New York, and so I got to meet a number of other stunt coordinators and worked with them, and from that, these other stunt coordinators were coordinating stunts on soap operas, movies, and ultimately I started doing stunts in addition to acting. It wasn't instead of acting, but in addition to acting. I started doing stunts on soap operas, and then ultimately I met the stunt coordinator on Kovac, who was doing the New York sequences of Superman 1 and 2, and he asked me to double Margot Kidder, which I loved. I did it. It was great. I got on the front page of the New York Post, and it says, "Is it a bird? Is it a plane?" No, it's super stunt woman Ellen Bry, and it had the whole thing was photos of me in front of the Daily Planet, which was actually the New York Post, and so the New York Post was publishing photos and little photo essays every day while we were shooting
wow.
at the New York Post building, which they made a mock-up, and it was supposed to be the Daily Planet. So they were advertising it a lot. And that leads to another story. So my uncle was in a coffee shop looking over someone's shoulders and seeing the newspaper, seeing photos of me jumping off the side of a building and not seeing anything except Ellen Bry and seeing me falling off a building. And he freaked out and called my grandmother and said, "Oh, my God, did Ellen commit suicide?" So then he read the article and realized. So it was a hoot. Like I said, I have it framed in my office.
Oh boy, that's crazy. Yeah, Superman 1978 is one of my favorite movies of all time. It's in my top 10.
It's fabulous.
Yeah, I don't think anything has matched it since, even with all that CGI crap that's going on now.
Right. Well, when you see if you recall, there's a scene where Margot Kidder as Lois Lane confronts Clark Kent, the wonderful Christopher Reeve, and they're in the office, and she confronts him. She's sure that he's Superman, and so she taunts him and ultimately jumps out a window, so sure that he is Superman and is going to save her. And I don't know if you recall that scene.
I do.
But he uses his X-ray vision. He doesn't want to blow his cover. He uses his X-ray vision to open an awning to slow her speed. And then she falls on the awning and then falls into a fruit vendor's cart.
Yeah.
That was me.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, if you like do a slow stop frame, I don't know if you can see it, but that was me.
Wow, I'll have to check that out.
Yeah.
Wow, that's really, really great. So last
night. It was really, really fun.
Yeah.
And a little terrifying, but it was okay.
Yeah.
I'm here, right?
Yeah, you're here. So last night I watched one on YouTube. I watched one of your earliest roles in the TV movie of the week, Dallas Cowboys Cheerleaders.
Oh, uh-huh.
Yeah. Visually, it reminded me of Battle of the Network TV Stars. Yeah.
Oh, that was a while ago. Yeah, we were in. We shot it in Dallas. That was not shot in L.A. We actually were in Dallas.
Mm-hmm.
Shooting that movie. That was fun. I had a good time with that one. Working. I became very close friends with Pam Shoup, who played one of the other cheerleaders.
Mm-hmm. Did you cheerlead in high school?
No, I did not. I was actually practicing one day to go to the tryouts for cheerleading, and I was doing straddles and jumps, and I actually landed wrong on my ankle as I was jumping in my kitchen at home, and came down instead of on my foot on the side on my ankle, and tore a whole bunch of ligaments, and that kept me out of the tryouts. And then I decided, I'm not going to do this. So, no, I was not a cheerleader.
Well, you did.
And actually now, looking back, it was like, the world has changed so much. I think if I was going through school today, the idea of cheerleading would not be of interest to me at all.
Yeah. Well, you did.
I've moved on.
Well, you did a great Southern accent in the movie.
Oh, thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was happy with the accent, and I'm just happy with the opportunity. I mean, it wasn't a great movie, but it was a popular movie, and it was enjoyable. And I find it fun going on location. I enjoy shoots on location, get to know a new place, and I don't know. I sort of enjoy living out of a hotel room. I know a lot of people don't, but I kind of enjoy it.
Yeah, certain people, they like to travel and stuff.
Well, I love to travel. In fact, these days, I spend about 4 or 5 months out of the country. I have a passion for travel. It's exhilarating and wonderful and educational and inspirational. I really, really love to travel, and have. I put it on hold for many years. There were so many years where, I can't go. I can't go to Tibet. I can't go to Europe. I can't do this. I can't do that because, oh, my God, it's pilot season.
Yeah.
And, you reach a certain age, and it's like, I'm not going to get to the end zone and say, oh, my God, I forgot to travel. I'm not going to do that. So I've been a traveling fool for the last, almost 10 years.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's great. What are your favorite places you like to visit?
Well, I'm actually planning a trip. I'm planning to put a small tour together to go to Tibet, Bhutan, and Nepal in the fall of 2020. I've traveled all over the world. I love Turkey, Egypt. Tibet was amazing. Southeast Asia, phenomenal. Peru is a fascinating place. I've been many, many places. I just love going to new countries and exploring new places, learning about different cultures. African safari is incredible. Loved Morocco. Love Europe. I mean, I could go back to Europe again and again and again. Italy's probably, if I had to pick one country, I mean, Italy's the bomb for me. But
that's my goal.
I've really explored. I'm excited. I'm planning a 2.5-month trip in February to Australia, New Zealand, and Bali.
Oh, wonderful! Yeah, that's my goal. Europe someday. Gonna make it someday.
You haven't been to Europe yet?
No.
No? Go. It's the bomb. I mean, it's just, well, see, when I was in college in the 70s, and it was kind of a thing for a lot of us that you'd go backpacking. You know, it was like Europe on $5 a day, and people would go backpacking through Europe, and literally on $5 a day. And so I first went to Europe when I was in college, and I got the travel bug. And I just have been traveling ever since. But like I said, in the last 10 years, I really ramped it up, and I'm out of the country 4 or 5 months a year.
Nice.
Yeah, I have a travel blog too. My partner and he and I, we've been together about 10 years, and it's actually, we came together about 10 years ago, and we both have a passion for travel, so it's called Boomer Boarding Pass. So that's our travel blog, boomerboardingpass.com.
Sweet.
Yeah.
So with the Amazing Spider-Man, I didn't see most of your episodes until YouTube came, because the episodes I grew up on were the 2-hour ones that got released on VHS. The Chinese Web was the first one that I saw you in, but I
was in that briefly because they didn't take me to China.
Yeah.
Chinese Web was actually toward the end of the series that we did. I think it was 8 hours, and that was the last part of it. And so it was a limited series. Unfortunately, it didn't get picked up, but it did bring me out to Hollywood. And it was a really wonderful experience. I had a lot of fun with it.
Yeah.
So do they have full episodes on YouTube?
They got full episodes now, yeah. But my favorite 2-hour one was The Deadly Dust, which you weren't in, but Joanna Cameron played the love interest, and her chemistry with Nicholas was so magical. I can't believe they didn't make her a regular on the show.
Well, that's interesting, because that show, The Deadly Dust, actually happened before the series. What they were doing was they were doing these movies of the week or 2-hour movies. I don't know if it was a full 2 hours, but they had 2 or 3 of them, is my understanding. There was Deadly Dust. I think there was another one as well. There was Deadly Dust. There was Chinese Web. I think there was maybe a third one.
The first one. The first one was a 2-hour episode.
And that was called what?
The Amazing Spider-Man.
Oh, okay. So The Amazing Spider-Man, Deadly Dust, and Chinese Web were all 2 hours. But the Amazing Spider-Man and Deadly Dust were 2-hour movies. And then based upon, I guess, the ratings or however they determine these things, after they did those 2-hour movies, I guess there was enough interest to turn it into a 1-hour weekly series.
Right.
So they wanted to cast a female regular to star opposite Nicholas Hammond. They didn't pick Joanna Cameron. I'm not sure why. I don't think she was ever in the running for it. Maybe she wasn't interested. I'm not sure. But by the time I got involved and auditioned, I was in a field of actresses who were auditioning for the 1-hour weekly TV series, and there was an order for 8 1-hour episodes, and I got the job and did the 8 1-hour episodes. The last one being Chinese Web, which they expanded into a 2-hour movie again.
Mm-hmm.
unfortunately, it didn't get picked up. But it brought me out to Hollywood. I moved out here. I got good agents. I started working in Los Angeles, and it was a great way to come to town. So it was a really good experience for me. Also, it was incredible because in New York, yes, I was earning a good living. I did a lot of TV commercials and some work on soap operas and acting gigs and stunt gigs, but it was always about, making sure I had enough money for food and rent and whatever, and then all of a sudden I came out to LA, and all of a sudden I'm co-starring or I'm starring, female lead on a TV series making in the thousands each week, and I'm like, oh my gosh, it's like it was quite a dramatic difference from my little studio walk-up apartment in Greenwich Village to coming out and having a nice one-bedroom apartment on the beach. And I had never owned a car before I came to LA. I came out here in 1978, but before that I was living in the city, college, and then after college in the city, I didn't have a car. And I'll never forget being out here, flush with newfound funds. I actually went into a Toyota dealership the first week I was here and paid cash for a car. Just went in, plunked down cash, drove the car off the lot. It was quite an incredible feeling.
Wow.
Yeah.
How was working with Robert F. Simon?
Oh, good. He was, an old veteran. I didn't have a lot of scenes with him because my character, Julie Masters, was on a different newspaper, a newspaper that was competitive with Peter Parker's newspaper, and
right.
Robert Simon was Peter Parker's boss, Nicholas Hammond's boss, and I was at a competing newspaper, so I had very few interactions with him. But he was a hell of a nice guy.
Yeah.
So was Chip Fields was great, and Nick was fun to work with, and we had an amazing stuntman named Freddie Waugh, who was just incredible. He was like Spider-Man. The things he could do was mind-blowing.
Yeah. Nicholas, he was a great guy when I talked to him and stuff. But Robert F. Simon, he brought so much more to Mr. Jameson because, he could be an angry, cynical curmudgeon, but also he could bring a sense of humor and humility to him as well. And in the Chinese web especially, you get to see his vulnerability, when his friend is in trouble.
Right.
Yeah. What do you think of the new Spider-Man versions?
You mean the feature films?
Yeah.
I to be honest with you, I haven't seen them all. I've seen the first couple, and
yeah, me too.
It's fine. I mean, I feel nostalgic about the TV series that I did with Nick, and I'm sorry it never got picked up. We never really got a regular time slot, and I think if we had a regular time slot, maybe we would have had a chance of going longer than 8 episodes. So it's bittersweet to see it on the big screen. They're fun movies, but it makes me sad that our little TV series never took off.
Yeah, Nicholas and I agreed. The reason why the show didn't take off probably was because the show is pretty much a 70s crime show version of a superhero series, and they didn't use the original comic book characters, the bad guys and stuff. And that
right? No, they didn't. Well, that might have been it too, but you mean like, all the Marvel comic
villains like Dr. Doom and stuff, yeah.
Yeah. Well, thought of that, but that's probably pretty apt that might have, you know.
Ellen? Hello? Yeah.
Are you there?
Yeah, I'm there.
Oh, okay. The ratings might have suffered as a result of that, but I think the other thing was the ratings probably suffered because we didn't have a regular time slot. We kept getting preempted, and we'd be on, and then we'd be off for 3 weeks, and then we'd be on at a different time, and then we'd be off for 2 weeks, and it's very hard to build an audience that way. And it was probably geared a little too juvenile. You know, I ended up getting lots of fan mail, but mostly from kids. So I think it appealed much more to a younger audience rather than a wide audience.
Mm-hmm.
Hindsight is 20/20, right?
Right. Yeah, you guys had pretty weird seasons, but it's still great. I love it. It's still
good.
Still my favorite version. You did an episode of Chips with Aldo Ray was in that episode. What was that like?
Chips was a trip. I was on roller skates. I was a roller skating gas station attendant. It was during a time when there was a gasoline shortage in Los Angeles, and depending on what number your license plate ended in, you were either on an odd day or an even day to get gasoline, and the lines were long, and somehow I was giving preferential treatment to Eric Estrada. And but I spent most of that episode on roller skates. It was pretty funny. It was a fun show to work on. Eric was quite the diva.
Yeah.
But certainly very kind and generous to me. In fact, when the show wrapped, he insisted that the wardrobe department let me keep the roller skates, which I was thrilled with. I was living at the beach, and I used to take those same roller skates that were from the Chips wardrobe, and I would roller skate at the beach, the boardwalk, which is not actually a boardwalk, it's cement, but the boardwalk down in Venice and Santa Monica, which is in fact cement. I would roller skate up and down there for years using those roller skates, and in fact they're still in the back of my closet, although I haven't roller skated in a while.
Yeah.
But I had fun on that, and actually one of my closest friends I met on Chips, a fabulous actor and a wonderful human being named Paul Link. Mm-hmm. Paul Link played the role of Grossman on Chips, and he and I became very good friends. He's just a terrific actor, works a lot in theater now, but has had an interesting career as well, and so that's how I met Paul Link, also known as Grossman from Chips.
A couple of years ago, I met Lou Wagner. It was a convention. They were doing the 50th anniversary of the Planet of the Apes, and he was very nice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The Misadventures of Sheriff Lobo.
Oh my goodness. The Misadventures of Sheriff Lobo. Yeah, I remember having a lot of scenes with Birdie. Now, what's the guy? He's gone on to doing a lot of theater stage work. He's a very good actor. You couldn't tell from Sheriff Lobo that he was such a good actor because they didn't give him that much to do.
Brian Kerwin.
Yes, right. Yeah. Right, exactly. Brian Kerwin. I played Birdie Hawkins' girlfriend, and Birdie was played by Brian Kerwin. Yeah, that was good. Claude Akins was a real pro, and I enjoyed that. You know what? I I enjoy acting. I love working. It's auditioning is kind of a drag, but working is fantastic. The funny thing about that show was I was also working on that show with Nicholas Coster.
Yeah.
Funny to me, only Nick Coster, who plays, or at the time anyway, he'd play a lot of the heavies, the bad guys. But Nick Coster and I were both guesting on that show.
Mm-hmm.
And coincidentally, when I ran into him, I was like, oh my gosh, hi, Nick. And he was like, hi, Ellen. And I knew him when I was in college. When I was at Columbia University, mm-hmm. I took a scuba diving class. And I did most of my scuba diving classes at the Columbia University swimming pool. And Nicholas Coster was my scuba teacher. He was a NAUI certified scuba instructor. And so I hadn't seen him since I was in school, and he was my scuba instructor. So that was kind of funny working with him then. And he had been on a soap opera in New York for many years. Great scuba teacher. Mm-hmm. Good actor too.
And he was married to Candace Hilligoss from Carnival of Souls.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, she's like one of my dream guests that I'm trying to get on before she croaks.
Okay. Well, if I knew how to get to Nicholas Coster, maybe you could get to her. I'll have to think about, the 6 degrees of separation at this point anyway, of how to connect to him. Although, you know what? Recently I remember Nick Coster coming up in conversation with someone, so maybe I could figure out a way to get to him and connect the dots to you.
Oh,
Give me a while to work on that.
That would be great, yeah.
Of course, you'd have to interview him as well.
Of course.
that would be something, just interviewing his wife. You'd need to interview him as well.
Oh, yeah.
He's fun, though. He's fun and funny, great sense of humor.
Yeah, he's
lots of stories.
He's prolific, yeah.
Yeah.
He's got a huge career. Yeah.
Yes.
So how did St. Elsewhere come into your life?
St. Elsewhere. I auditioned for it. I ended up meeting and marrying my husband, my ex-husband now, on the show. And it was magical. The show was just one of the best written things I've ever worked on. The writing was profound and brilliant, and that show had just a magical cast, and everything about that show was magical to me. It was a great time in my life, and it was a great show to be a part of. I'm really proud of the work I did and all of the work on St. Elsewhere. It was a fabulous, fabulous series.
Yeah, it's such a great cast. Yeah, William Daniels, Howie Mandel, Ed Begley Jr., Denzel Washington, Mark Harmon, Stephen Furst, Ed Flanders. Wow, that's a great cast.
Amazing. It was such an incredible experience to be a part of that show, and probably, definitely one of the high points of my career. I still think about how great a cast, and it was really a family. Also, Norman Lloyd, who's still alive and well, and I see him every once in a while. He's well over 100. I think he's about 104 now. Howie Mandel. I ran into Howie Mandel and Eric Lanaville and Ed Begley Jr. Not that long ago at a birthday party together, and it's just a great group of people.
Yeah, when the show was pitched, it was pitched as Hill Street Blues in a Hospital.
Yeah, for a long time, the working title, because we started working on it, really have a name, and so the working title was Hill Street Hospital.
Yeah.
So that's how it started out, Hill Street Hospital. But the writing on that was amazing.
Yeah, that's a good way to describe the show too.
Yeah, it was extraordinary. It really was extraordinary, and really that and Hill Street Blues, I think, really kicked off the large ensemble cast, multiple storylines in each episode. It was one of the favorite things I've done.
Mm-hmm. My earliest memory of you was the unsold Disney pilot I-Man.
Oh, yeah. We shot that show in Vancouver. Talk about being on location, how much I enjoy it. I love doing that show. Scott Bakula is just a sweetheart. And he and I had a lot of fun with that. And it was all shot on location in and around Vancouver, and gorgeous scenery. And it kept me up there for, oh my gosh, we were up there over a month shooting that. Maybe it was more like 5 weeks, and really enjoyed that, and really enjoyed British Columbia. Mm-hmm. Fabulous up there.
Yeah, Scott Bakula, he had such a nice body in those days.
He did. He did.
The legendary Corey Allen directed. What was he like?
He was great. I loved Corey Allen. He was a really good director, and knew what he wanted, and was precise, and got good performances out of everybody, even fairly inexperienced people. He was a really good guy. You know, some guys are very friendly and warm and open and welcoming. Others are somewhat intimidating. He was really a good guy, warm, friendly, in charge, and yet collaborative, which is always good. You want someone who's going to be the bottom line and be the decision maker, but it's always nice to feel like it's a collaborative effort. And he was loved by the crew. And if your director is loved by the crew, it makes for a very, very nice working environment. If your director is someone that the crew shuns, it can be a fairly miserable experience.
Yeah, it's good there's no ego there.
No, he had no ego about it. It was all about doing the work and getting the shots he wanted and needed. And we had some fabulous locations. Nothing was really a set. It was we were in these mansions and beautiful rural locations and on people's estates. And I mean, the places we were shooting this were really extraordinary. And you often find, or one often finds, when you're on location, for instance, in British Columbia, when I've worked out of town, say in North Carolina, where I've shot a couple of things. I shot a movie in Georgia. Locals go out of their way to welcome you and to make locations available. So you shoot in extraordinary locations, and people just can't do enough for the film crew to make you feel welcome and to, stop traffic for you and rearrange things, just all for the shoot. It's kind of cool. Mm-hmm. Very nice. And my experiences out of town have been terrific.
And also, too, Joey Kramer from Flight of the Navigator was in it.
Yeah, he played Scott's son.
Yeah.
He was a good kid. A pro.
Yeah, I used to watch the ABC Sunday Disney movie during that time. I have so many great memories of watching those movies. I still love them. They're still on YouTube and stuff.
Oh, really? Yeah, I
Yeah.
know. There's a ton on YouTube that you can get.
Yeah. Then you finally broke into theatrical movies with a movie I've always loved called Bye Bye Love.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people don't know Bye Bye Love. But
Yeah.
I only worked on that a few days,
Mm-hmm.
but good memories of that. Sort of foggy memories of it, but that was fun. I'm wondering if that was the first film I did. Maybe. I actually did some other things before that, but that was so long ago. It's hard for me in my brain to order things.
Yeah.
Which came first.
It came out around the time of my parents getting divorced, and it gave me some closure.
The Bye Bye Love. Oh, good.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. Then you were cast in Deep Impact.
That was great. I played the White House press secretary to Morgan Freeman's President of the United States. That was wonderful. And Elijah Wood was in that. And
Robert Duvall.
yeah, that was fantastic. Bobby Duvall? Really? I don't think so.
Yeah, he is.
You might.
I don't think he's in the whole movie, but he is in it.
Wow. Okay. I obviously didn't have scenes with Robert Duvall. Otherwise, yeah, you're right. He was in it. I didn't have any scenes with him. I had scenes with Téa Leoni and Elijah Wood and Morgan Freeman, and so I never crossed paths with Robert Duvall.
Yeah, a couple of months after it came out, Armageddon came out, and people were comparing them to. I've heard some people say, in hindsight, it was the beginning of Hollywood, getting just, to the point where they're just making movies with little acting, little plot, just many special effects.
Disaster movies. Actually, they were running, you said a few months later, but actually my recollection was that they were playing in theaters at the same time, that Armageddon and Deep Impact were kind of out in theatrical release. At least they overlapped. They were playing in theaters at the same time. Quite a different storyline, but both involving meteors.
Yeah. I like Armageddon, though. There's some funny humor in that movie.
Oh, I thought Armageddon was fabulous. I really liked Armageddon, and Bruce Willis he just brings a certain humor. He's great. That movie was terrific.
Mm-hmm. Sure was. So, why did it take you so long to get roles in theatrical movies? Did you resist it at first because you were so prolific on TV?
Nobody that I know resists any job opportunity. I did not resist it. I just didn't have the opportunity. I wasn't getting auditions for feature films. I wish I had. Mm-hmm. Maybe I would have made more of them. No, there was no resistance to working. I was always ready, willing, and able to audition. I just, it just didn't come my way. Certainly when I had an opportunity to audition for something, I didn't care if it was a film or a TV show or a stage play. I was, as long as it was acting, I'm up for it.
Yeah, those TV, it's a lot more faster paced, right?
TV is much faster paced. Oh my gosh, yes. And now I think it's even faster than it was. We used to do an episode, a 1 hour show. You would shoot for 7 days. So you'd shoot like a 60-page script or 55 our shows do a 6-day shoot, not a 7-day shoot, whereas with a feature film, you can, do 2 pages a day as opposed to, 8 to 10 pages a day. It's a much slower pace.
Yeah.
Much more room for excellence.
I heard
go slower.
I heard the hardest job in TV, though, is soap operas.
You mean with the amount of dialogue you have to learn
Pages
day
and
in, day out?
pages. Yeah. Pages and pages, and, there's no stopping. You have to keep going, or else you get fired. And a lot of people I've talked to who were on soap operas say that it was great training, but they would never want to do that as a full-time career.
Well, I've done some soaps, not as a regular, but, guesting on some soaps, and it's a rigorous pace. Yes, they cover massive quantity of pages and very, very little rehearsal time. They have, at least when I was doing them, they had 3 cameras going at once so that they'd cut it together. So you wouldn't do setups for close-ups and long shots and 2 shots. You'd get all of it because they'd have multiple cameras catching it at different angles and different, whether it was a 2-shot or a long shot. And there was a lot of keep it moving, keep going, keep going. Obviously they stop if someone goes up on their lines or if the blocking is a problem, but it's about quantity, not quality.
That's a good way to put it. I say that about everything, especially relationships. Quality is better than quantity.
That's true. I would say that's generally true with everything. Quality over quantity.
Yeah. So I take it with all your constant traveling, you're retired from acting?
No, I'm not retired from acting. If I get an audition, I go. But I will say that the auditions are few and far between these days. I'm in my 60s, and if you don't have a pretty big name in the business, there isn't as much work. There's a lot less work for older actors and actresses, especially actresses. There's just a lot less work. I think when young actors go into the business, they don't think about what it's going to be like when they're in their 50s, 60s, 70s, because it's there aren't as many roles, and there's still a lot of people who are quite interested in working, like myself, others like me, that there are fewer roles, and you don't go into the business thinking that your career has a sell-by date, but in fact there is sort of an unspoken sell-by date. There's a lot of ageism in Hollywood, and it's hard to get work. On the other hand, it's always a crapshoot. I put myself out there. I do have agents and manager, and they know I want to work, and they want me to work. They don't get paid if I don't work. So I get some auditions, but I haven't worked in a while. On the other hand, I've had a good solid career, and it continues to bring me a lot of pleasure, and I also love traveling, and I do a lot of traveling with the guy I live with, and I got kids. I think that's another problem a lot for actresses, even if you do have a good solid career and good TVQ. Mm-hmm. A lot of people choose to take time off, as I did. I chose to take time off to have kids and to raise a family. And it's not like you can walk back in 15 years later and just pick up where you left off. That's just not the way the business works. That's not the way the world works. And it's a choice that people make if they want to take time off to have a family. And in my particular case, I never intended to take such a big chunk of time off. But unfortunately, 2 out of my 3 children had disabilities, which required me to be, a lioness, the mother from hell, to advocate for them properly. And it became a real full-time job, not only parenting, but also being a special needs advocate for my 2 sons who are both autistic. And so, I lost a lot of traction many years ago. And it was a choice, and I made the right choice for me. And, of course, nobody guarantees that your children are going to come out cookie-cutter, perfectly normal on the bell curve. But that brought me down another path, and I'm quite an expert on autism and how to fight the system, and I'm a damn good advocate and case manager for my 2 sons who are now 28 and 30. They both live outside my house. I mean, one son is thriving, living on his own, and he has a fabulous job, and he's doing really well. And the other kid is also doing well, not quite as well, but they're both considered high-functioning autistic. That took a lot of my time away from acting, but it also gave me a very different perspective on the world and on parenting and on, what's important.
I have Asperger's syndrome, and I was in special ed for 10 years in school, and
really?
It was very hard for me. Yeah, it still is in many ways. And now I'm recovering from a car accident from 4 years ago. I was in a coma for 30 days.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah.
Do you remember anything about that?
I blacked out because it was alcohol-induced. I blacked out, when the accident happened and stuff. Then I regained conscience for a little bit, and then I woke up in the hospital, 30 days later, and I just remember laying there thinking, why am I not waking up, and it was so surreal. It felt like I was doing my daily routine every day. It was just a really strange experience.
But you do have memories of being conscious and thoughts and images, but you just weren't waking up to anyone in the room. You were in a coma, but your mind was active, and you were wondering why you weren't waking up?
Yeah.
That's incredible. I have to ask you now. I'll be the interviewer.
Okay.
I've always wondered because, they say that when people are in a coma, you should still talk to them, and also as people are dying, that you want to talk to them, because apparently hearing is the last sense to go, or one of the last senses to go, so that if someone's in a coma or dying, they can still hear you. Do you recall if you were able to hear people talking in the room around you when you were in your coma?
Not much and stuff, but my mom tells me that she was there, my brother was there, a couple other people and stuff. But I will tell you this though, I have an uncle who died 5 years before I was born, and my mom could have swore that he was talking to her, and that my spirit was floating around her car during the coma.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. I mean, and we're religious, and we believe in spirituality and all that stuff. It was just a very profound experience. And 2 years later, I start this podcast, and here I am.
Well, I'm glad you're among us. That's an incredible story. You should think about writing about it. I mean,
my mom is.
There's so few people who have that experience of, not that it's an experience that anyone longs for or wants, but the fact is there's so few people who have the experience of having been in a coma, you might consider writing about it.
My mom, she's writing a book. She's been writing a book since it happened, and I can't wait to read it and see everything. But like I write, I've been writing screenplays since I was 12, and I've written stuff, taken from all my experiences and stuff that I've experienced, So I do write about it, But
Good.
someday I will write my own book and stuff if my mom ends up not finishing hers. But
well, good. I write about my experience raising two sons with autism. I mean, one of them probably you'd say has Asperger's syndrome. Both kids are also on the spectrum, as they say. And I've written many essays about different experiences we had, as a very unusual, atypical family. And I've often thought that I should put these stories together and do a one-woman show about raising two kids that had these challenges, and they're both thriving. And like I said, I became just the mother from hell whenever I needed to. I never lost a battle with a school district or a medical insurance company. I mean, I went in there doing battle, and that it taught me a lot of things about life and about priorities. And although I love acting, and I would welcome the opportunity to work again and also to work more often these days than I do, still you have to put one's career in perspective. It's a career, and I love it, but I have a bigger life than that. And travel is exhilarating and transformational to me. And also, I also didn't forget to have children. And so my family is important. So,
yeah.
A career is a part of your life. And I'm lucky to have had and have the career I do, and I hope to work soon. I have a friend on the East Coast who has a year-round theater company in Cape May, New Jersey, who keeps threatening to offer me a role. In fact, a couple of years ago, he did offer me a role as the lead in a show at his theater. Unfortunately, I was literally out the door to Scandinavia at the time. I was on a big 2-month trip to Scandinavia, and my bags were packed, and I had to turn it down. But he's been threatening to offer me a role again, and I promise this time I will take it.
Yeah, I hope a Netflix or Amazon series picks you up, because we need your baby blues back on the screen.
Well, that's really sweet of you. Okay, as they say, from your mouth to God's ears. Let's see what happens. Yeah.
So here's the fun part of the podcast, Ellen. There's a quick game that I like to play with my guests, and
my gosh! I hope I'm up to the task.
It's really easy. What it is, it's silly slumber party questions, and how it works is I ask you the question, you answer it, and you ask me that same question, and I answer it.
Oh gosh! All right, let me take a deep breath. A slumber party question. Okay, I don't know where this is going. Go ahead.
Okay, Ellen, are you ticklish?
Yes. Are you ticklish?
I am very ticklish.
Uh-huh. But tickles are fun.
Oh, yes.
Tickles, if you can get beyond the pain of them, can be pleasurable.
Yeah, I love being tickled.
Yeah, I actually do, too.
What's your favorite part of the body?
Oh, well, my favorite part of the body. My body or somebody else's body?
It could be any.
The eyes. My favorite part of the body is the eyes. Looking into somebody's eyes they say eyes are the windows to the soul, and I totally believe that. The eyes, the eyes. How about you? What's your favorite part of the body?
Well, aside from your eyes,
Thank you.
I have always loved the belly button.
The belly button.
Yep.
Belly buttons are funny.
Yeah.
I think belly buttons are kind of funny and silly.
Oh, yeah. For the time I was probably 2 years old or something, I was always lifting up people's shirts.
But that's so funny. And one of my sons, I would have to say that he was fascinated with people's hair. He
Really?
used to like to go up, sometimes to strangers, unfortunately. He'd go up to strangers and touch their hair. He was just fascinated by it. And I kind of get that. I mean, hair is just kind of odd, isn't it?
Yeah.
Hair. But that was his thing. But yeah, I love looking into people's eyes.
Do you ever contemplate your belly button?
Do I what?
Do you ever contemplate your belly button?
Contemplate my belly button. Not in so many words, no. How about you? Do you contemplate your belly button?
Every day.
Really?
Yeah.
I would say I contemplate every day, but not on a particular body part. I just like to kind of meditate a little bit every day. Close my eyes and take some deep breaths and try to quiet my brain, which is easier said than done.
Mm-hmm.
It's very hard to quiet the mind.
What color?
What are some other slumber party questions?
What color are your toenails painted?
Right now?
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, they're painted like a dark red. It's called, and I even know the color. It's an OPI color called Evening in Lincoln Park, which brings up the question: why do nail polish companies have all these bizarre names for their colors? But it's a dark ruby red color.
Nice.
What color are your toenails, dear?
I don't paint them in the winter time. The last time I did it was back in September. I was in LA and I had purple with sparkles on them.
Ooh, I like it. Purple with sparkles. That's cool. Now, why do you resist painting your toenails in the winter?
Because no one's going to see them.
Well, you'll see them, and you're important.
Oh, thank you.
Aw.
Yeah, I don't know.
You know what? I do it for myself. I don't know. It's fun.
Yeah, I never.
You will see them. I suggest you paint them in the winter as well.
I never really thought of it. But yeah, I like how you mentioned OPI. I got into that brand when I was in high school. There's this teacher at my school who was always painting her toes with OPI colors and stuff. And her and I, we developed a friendship. I used to come over to her house on the weekends and we'd paint our nails together. And then
Cool.
And then she got married and moved to Washington, and then she was gone. And then I found her on Facebook a couple of years ago, and I friend requested her, and she still hasn't gotten to the request.
No. Well, some people really don't really do Facebook, but
Yeah.
maybe you should try to, contact her again.
I should, yeah. And then here's my favorite one. Is there a stinky smell that just makes you gag?
Is there a stinky smell that just makes me gag? Yeah, it's kind of gross, but the smell of vomit makes me gag.
Ooh, yeah.
How about you? Is there a stinky smell that makes you gag?
Either farts or feet.
Yeah, feet are not fun. I also have to say another thing that makes me gag, and I've been to a lot of developing nations. I like exotic travel. I mean, I'm good with going to Hawaii or Europe or Canada or whatever, but I also like getting out there. India and the countries I told you I'm going to, Nepal, Tibet, Asia. Anyway, there are a lot of countries where there are a lot of people in close proximity to each other that don't bathe as often as we do. And sometimes the body odor in my nostrils, the smell can be overpowering, and I find that a bit nauseating also.
Yeah, after I got out of the...
Very, very strong body odor kind of makes me gag.
Yeah, after I got out of the hospital, I had bad athlete's foot for about 6 months.
Ooh.
Yeah, because the last month I was in there in recovery, I was very grumpy. I was under, so much anesthesia and medicine that I didn't give the nurses a good reason to like me, so they just didn't change my socks.
Oh no.
Yeah. So that was the worst ever. Whew, it was pretty bad, but I got rid of it.
Well, it's really bad if you gross yourself out,
But it was pretty bad. Ellen, do you like jokes?
If they're good. I don't like corny jokes, but if it's a good joke, sure.
Okay, well, I don't know how corny these jokes are, but let's put you to the test.
All right.
Everybody knows the old nursery rhyme. There was an old woman who lived in a shoe. She had so many kids she didn't know what to do. What did her right leg say to her left leg?
Keep yourself closed tightly.
Nothing. They never met.
Okay, a variation on, another way to approach it, okay?
What's the difference between a Rubik's Cube and a man's dick?
Oh, wow. Jesus, I don't know what.
The more you play with it, the harder it gets.
That's a good one.
Thank you. Yeah, ever since I
like that one.
Yeah, ever since I was in high school, I've always told girls jokes to make them laugh, And to this day, whenever I run into a girl from high school, they're like, "Hey, Tommy, you got one for me?"
Yeah, tell me a joke, Tommy.
Yeah.
Well, the Rubik's Cube one is a good one.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I've been doing stand-up comedy and open mic for like 13 years now.
Really?
Yeah.
Cool.
And
you're still doing it?
Up here in Reading, there's really nowhere to go to do open mic and stuff. But like when I'm back home in the Bay Area and stuff, I go up and do it. And hopefully, I'm going to move to Los Angeles next year, and I'll be able to do it out there.
Oh, great!
And stuff. Yeah, it's hard work.
Takes a lot of courage to get up there.
Yeah, it's hard work, but it's a lot of fun. It can be. So, Ellen, this has been just so amazing. Thank you so much for coming on today.
Thank you for having me. This was a lot of fun.
Yes, indeed, it sure was. And keep in touch with you, and I hope your next trip will be amazing.
Thank you, and put in a good word for me. I want to work soon.
Yeah. Yes.
All right?
I sure
put in
will.
A good word upstairs. I'd like to get a job soon. I miss it. I miss acting. I haven't actually worked professionally in over a year and would very much like to.
Awesome.
Put in a good word.
I sure will. Keep that head up. You'll get something.
Thank you. Now, if you'd like me to follow up, I will try to figure out who it was who I know who knows how to be in touch with Nick Coster. If you would like me to try to follow up on that, I will.
Sure, I would love that.
Okay. Give me a while, because first I have to figure out in my brain who it was, but someone I know keeps in touch with him, and I'll try to connect the dots.
Awesome.
All right, you take care. Thank you again.
Thank you, Ellen. Have a great day.
You too. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Well, there you have it. Ellen Bry. Ain't she a sweetheart? Thank you so much, Ellen. You're just an amazing lady. I'm so happy we got to talk and that you have helped out with your autistic children's lives. That is just fucking amazing. If you like this video, everyone, please subscribe to my YouTube channel, add me as a friend on Facebook, join my Tommy Kovac comedian page on Facebook, follow me on Twitter and Instagram, and all that fun stuff. Well, that's all the time we have this week on Splat from the Past. Until next time, this is Tommy Throwback Kovac saying, there's no shame in living in the past, because the present sucks. Later, dudes.